Rain streaked down the glass windows of Harrison's Prime, the flagship restaurant of a man who'd built an empire from nothing. At 62, David Harrison should have felt proud. 17 restaurants, 3 states, 40 years of hard work. Yet, as he walked through the storm in a plain jacket and worn shoes, he didn't feel like a billionaire CEO. He felt like a man searching for something he'd lost. Tonight, he wasn't coming as the owner. He was coming undercover, as an ordinary customer. He'd received several complaints about declining service. The numbers looked fine on paper, but something in his gut told him that his company's soul was slipping away. When David pushed open the glass doors, warm light and soft music greeted him. Yet the energy was off. It felt hollow, like actors performing joy rather than living it. "Just one," the hostess mumbled, eyes glued to her phone. She didn't smile, didn't even look up properly. "Yes, just one," David replied quietly. She grabbed a menu and led him to a small table near the kitchen doors, the kind of spot reserved for customers who wouldn't tip much. David sat, watching the dining room with the sharp eye of someone who'd once scrubbed tables himself. The waitstaff moved efficiently, but without warmth. Laughter floated through the air, but it didn't reach their eyes. Then he noticed her, a woman in her early 40s, brown hair tied back, moving between tables with calm precision. Her name tag read Linda. Unlike the others, she smiled with sincerity. She listened when customers spoke. She refilled glasses before anyone had to ask. David noticed how the younger servers whispered about her, rolling their eyes when she offered help. But Linda ignored it all, carrying herself with quiet dignity. He saw the weight in her shoulders, though, the flicker in her smile when she thought no one was looking. As the dinner rush picked up, the noise grew tense. A businessman snapped his fingers at her. A couple complained about their appetizer. An elderly woman sent her soup back. Twice. Linda handled it all with grace. Every apology was real, every smile genuine. David ordered a simple chicken dinner. He wanted to observe quietly. When his plate arrived, brought by another server with barely a word, he looked up and caught Linda stepping into the small alcove between the kitchen and dining area. Her back turned to everyone. She pressed her palms to her face. Her shoulders trembled. She was crying. David froze. Within seconds, she straightened, wiped her eyes, and returned to her tables as if nothing had happened. That moment hit him harder than any financial report ever had. As the night went on, David watched closer. Linda's hands trembled slightly as she carried plates. Her breathing steadied between orders. Every time she checked her tip envelope, her expression tightened, like someone calculating survival, not profit. Finally, when she passed his table, he spoke. "Excuse me, miss," he said gently. "Yes, sir," she replied with a polite smile, though her eyes were weary. "You seem to care a lot about this place," David said. "How long have you worked here?" 8 years next month, Linda replied, a touch of pride in her voice. "I started right after my husband passed. Mr. Harrison gave me a chance when nobody else would hire a 40-year-old widow with no restaurant experience." David felt his chest tighten. He remembered approving that hiring years ago, but he'd never followed up. "That must have been hard," he said quietly. "It was," she nodded, "but this job saved us. My daughter was 10 back then. I needed something stable. The people here became like family." Before David could respond, a sharp-faced man approached. "Linda," the manager snapped. "There's an issue with Table 9's order. Handle it." "Yes, Craig," she said softly and hurried away. David's gaze followed the manager. Craig barked orders, belittled servers, and cared more about efficiency than people. He even mocked a young waiter for spilling water. Every word from him grated against the principles David had built his restaurants on. Hours later, near closing time, David saw Linda quietly approach Craig again, her tone respectful, almost apologetic. "About my schedule," she began. "I was wondering if I could switch shifts next Friday. My daughter's scholarship interview." Craig cut her off loudly. "If you can't handle your hours, maybe you should find another job. There are plenty of people who'd be grateful for this one." Linda's face turned red. She nodded silently and walked away, straight back to that alcove. This time, Her tears didn't stop. David's heart sank. Something inside him, something long dormant, snapped awake. He waited until she reemerged and caught her eye. "Miss, could I have a word?" he asked. "I'm not complaining. I just need your perspective." Linda hesitated, glancing toward Craig counting the register. "We're closing soon, sir. I still have tables to clean." "Just 1 minute," David said softly. "I'm a business owner, too. Maybe you can help me understand something." Something in his tone disarmed her. She sat across from him, hands folded neatly in her lap. "You mentioned your daughter," David said. "She must be almost grown now." Linda's tired face brightened. "She's a senior. Honor roll. Wants to be a nurse." Pride softened her voice, but her smile faltered. "But college is expensive. And with my hours cut, well," she trailed off, embarrassed. "Sorry, you don't need to hear all that." "Your hours were cut?" David pressed gently. Linda nodded. "New management policy. Fewer full-time staff means lower benefit costs. I used to get 40 hours a week. Now I'm lucky to get 25. David clenched his jaw. "I've been looking for a second job," she said softly, "but nothing pays enough. I love it here. I love making people feel welcome. But I don't know how much longer I can keep going." David watched her count her tips again, lips moving silently. Every dollar mattered. "Have you told the owner how things are?" he asked. Linda gave a dry, sad laugh. "Mr. Harrison? I've never even met him. Craig says he's too busy managing his empire to care about people like me." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. Before he could speak, Craig appeared again, anger flashing across his face. "Linda, you have side work to finish. Stop chatting with customers." David rose slowly from his chair. His voice when he spoke was calm, but carried the weight of command. "Actually," he said evenly, "I'd like to know more about this management philosophy you mentioned." Craig blinked. "Sir, we're closed. You need to pay your bill and leave." David met his eyes. "My name," he said quietly, "is David Harrison, and I own this restaurant." The room froze. Craig's mouth opened, then shut. Color drained from his face. Linda gasped, hand flying to her lips. David looked around at his stunned staff. "Now," he said firmly, "let's talk about how my employees are being treated." Silence filled the restaurant. Forks stopped clinking, and every eye turned toward David. Craig stammered, "Mr. Harrison, I didn't know you were, sir. If I had known." "That's exactly the problem," David said quietly. "You didn't know, which means tonight I got to see the truth." He gestured around the room. "This place used to feel alive. Every table, every smile, it was a family. But now, I see fear. I see exhaustion. And I see people who care more about surviving a shift than making someone's night special." Craig's face flushed crimson. "Sir, the numbers show increased efficiency. We've cut waste, improved." "The numbers don't show Linda staying late to comfort a grieving widow," David interrupted sharply. "They don't show her buying crayons for children out of her own pocket. They don't show her remembering that Mrs. Peterson likes extra whipped cream because it reminds her of her late husband. Those are the things that built this company, not spreadsheets, not cost-cutting." He took out his phone and dialed. "Patricia," he said, "prepare an immediate termination for Craig Reynolds, effective tonight, and start drafting a management transition plan for Harrison Prime." Craig's mouth fell open. "Sir, you can clear your office now," David said simply. "I'll have someone collect your keys in the morning." As Craig stumbled away, the staff stared in stunned silence. Linda stood frozen, tears still glistening in her eyes. David turned to her. "Linda," he said softly, "I remember when you started here. You walked in wearing your best dress, nervous but determined. You told me you'd work harder than anyone if I gave you a chance." Her voice trembled. "I kept that promise. Every single day." "I know," he said, "and I broke mine. I promised you'd be part of family here, that you'd be valued and respected. But somewhere along the way, I let numbers matter more than people. I forgot why I opened these doors in the first place." The words seemed to hang in the air, heavy with truth. Then quietly he asked, "If you could change anything about this restaurant, anything, what would it be?" Linda hesitated, looking around at her co-workers. "I don't know what to say." "Start with what made you love it here." David encouraged. "Tell me what's missing." Linda took a breath. "When I started, this place felt like home. We helped each other. We cared about the guests. It wasn't about clocking in. It was about belonging. Now, it feels like everyone's scared to mess up. We've lost a heart." David nodded slowly. "Then that's what we'll fix first." 3 months later, the wind off Lake Michigan carried the faint scent of rain as David walked once more toward Harrison's Prime. But tonight, the air inside buzzed with a new kind of energy. Laughter rippled from the dining room. Servers moved in sync, helping one another without being told. The soft hum of conversation was genuine again, like music returning to a long, silent piano. And there she was, Linda, standing near the host station, radiant in her crisp uniform and new name tag that read, "Linda, Assistant Manager." She spotted David and grinned. "The new training program's working beautifully," she said. "Staff retention's up 60%. Customer satisfaction's the highest it's been in 3 years." David smiled. The numbers were good, but they weren't what mattered most. "And how's Jessica?" Linda's eyes sparkled. "She's wonderful, working part-time as a hostess, saving up for nursing school." David turned toward the front, where a young woman, Jessica, was greeting a family with the same warmth her mother once showed. Her smile was bright, effortless, and real. "She's got your kindness," David said. Linda laughed softly. "She's got your scholarship, too. I can't thank you enough for that." David remembered the phone call he'd made to the nursing school to establish the Harrison Employee Family Scholarship Fund. One call, one small act. But the change it brought to people's lives was beyond anything money could measure. "How's the program doing?" he asked, though he already knew. "Better than we ever dreamed," Linda said proudly. 5 employees' kids have received tuition help already. And you know what's amazing? Customers are asking about it. They say they come here now because they want to support a business that takes care of its people. David nodded, emotion tightening his throat. That's what it's supposed to be about. Linda looked around the restaurant. The laughter, the warmth, the sense of family reborn. "You know," she said quietly, "I used to think success meant keeping her head down and getting through the day. But now I see real success is when everyone around you rises, too." David's eyes softened. "You taught me that. I used to think running a restaurant was about perfection, but it's about people. About never forgetting that every plate you serve carries someone's story." As the evening rush began, David walked the floor, not as a distant CEO, but as a mentor. He shook hands, shared smiles, asked about families, and listened to small victories. The fear that had once haunted the place was gone. In its place was pride. When he finally stepped outside, rain had started again, a gentle drizzle that shimmered under the city lights. He turned back to look through the window. Inside, Linda was laughing as she trained a new server, showing her how to fold napkins with care. "Hospitality," David heard her say, "isn't just about serving food fast. It's about remembering every guest is someone's family. Treat them that way, and you'll never go wrong." David smiled, letting the moment sink in. He'd built an empire chasing success. But tonight he realized the truth. Success without kindness isn't success at all. Sometimes it takes one act of compassion, a quiet word, a second chance, to remind us of what truly matters. The rain fell softly as David walked away from Harrison's Prime. Noe's restaurant and his heart had finally found their way home again. Moral: the greatest businesses aren't built on profits or policies. They're built on people. Sometimes the most powerful change begins when you remember to see the humanity in those who serve you.